Alright, so I'm going to do a little vid on my my mill project. This thing is, to be honest, I've had several different ideas over, course of a year or so. So we shut that off. Yeah, that makes it a little better. Basically, it's a Grizzly 1007 round column mill. There's so many videos on YouTube. I mean, one of my favorites is a YouTuber, Cup of Joe. He's got a wrong fool copycat, I guess, or they're not really copycats, but they're all kind of rated among the same kind of mills. So, some stuff that I plan on doing with it. All of these are tooling that I'll eventually have set up. Basically, what I'm doing, it sounds kind of goofy, but I have my reasons, and basically these are router attachments. This here is 3/4 of an inch standard size, so that tells me that I can feasibly do, and these are all, anywhere from an ER11 to an ER20. Kind of trying to keep everything ER16, but there's a couple tools in here that I'm going to have to bump up to if I want to get into the 5/8 collet. I need to bump up to an ER20. So I have several of these on the way. This is essentially the same as, or roughly the same idea as Tormach. Obviously, a Tormach has, a collar under here, and then you have the collet that locates off the spindle, as far as the same offset is concerned. But I think for the stuff that I do and the tolerances that I do, I think this will be perfectly fine. I think that it will locate easily enough. The goal is to have all of these tools set up and labeled. When I say labeled, this is where I'm going with a lot of the. I want to keep it manual and CNC application, but it still has the ball or the lead screws in it. So I'm going to go ahead and make the necessary, I have my steppers over there, right there. Make the attachments to make this CNC. I also want to keep it manual, which is why I want to keep the power feed, because I still use it as manual. But that may change later on. I don't know. One thing that I did back here, you might notice, I had an air ratchet, and this held it. And then I went and looked on YouTube and seen that he had an electric drill, and that was just had enough torque, and that I like that idea better. So this is going to be later on fine-tuned. Several things that are going to be updated, and the ideas change on a day-to-day basis. So based on what I watch and what I think of at work. I know it looks really stupid, but the swivel, the paint's still wet. The swivel is basically 3/4 pipe threads, fittings, and I'm allowed to, it's just like your standard CNC. I can basically I don't want to touch it because the paint's wet. I can move this control panel, you know, where I want it, basically in or out or up or down. Up there is the PC. I'm going to have the controller for the drives. It'll be up on top of here. And then I'll eventually basically have, lack of better words, a shroud that will cover that. Pulse handle like this one, which I really dig. Pulse handle will be right there, so allow me to give me fine adjustments. After looking on YouTube, there's several things that I want to buy and maybe incorporate into this setup. If not into this one, I have a 4-foot by 4-foot CNC build coming up I've been collecting parts for. So if it doesn't get incorporated into this one, then I will probably incorporate into that. But essentially what I'm going to do here, this is just a touchscreen monitor that's been, I think I got it for $10 off eBay. This is a trackball mouse keyboard. When I say that I want to add things to it, I see that there's basically an interface that allows you to take keyboard functions and incorporate them into, like, say, a single button operation. Like if you had, you know, cycle start, feed hold, you know, whatever. I mean, and feed adjustment. It's just something that I've learned over the past few months. I mean, it's all been done before. That's the thing. It's just a matter of if you go out and you know, find it. So what I'm going to do here, can't really see it, but I'm going to have several, and I just did what I didn't want to do. I touched it. I'm going to have several buttons, you know, push buttons, anywhere from coolant to, I'm going to have your main light. I'll have this thing here. I'm going to lift this, and I'm going to have a pan. I wanted to do an enclosure for it, like a full enclosure, but to keep the full travel, the foot pattern was going to be a little bit too big. So my thoughts are, I'm just going to make a flood coolant pan that tapers from here to here, and it'll go back there. I'm going to have a flood coolant, but then I also have a backer, and then I'll also have, you know, like say a flip down shield or what have you, so either chips and coolant don't come out, you know, onto the floor, because that's always been a battle for me. I like a clean shop, but with this thing, it's hard to keep that. But yeah, I'll have the coolant pump. You know, I'll have switches over here, push button switches, and they'll be incorporated in. But I'll have the main light, coolant pump, and then these are kind of neat. I found these on eBay. It's kind of a, you know, a deal where it's what I'm going to use them for is a spindle light. Now, if you go on eBay or wherever, you'll look and see, and these things are advertised as approaching $50 with a few attachments, of course. Power supply. It's a low voltage, 12 volt DC. Put a transformer on it, and it's really bright, and it's kind of nice for just a secondary light. But if you go on and look, and those lights are advertised as upwards of $50 to bolt on. But these here are 3.150, which is just over 3 1/8 of an inch ID inner diameter. They'll slip up, you know, onto your chuck or whatever, and I'm going to do the same thing on my little router. It's going to go up just right over the spindle motor, and she's going to go right there. So those, I got 2 of those for, I think it was just a hair over $7 shipped for the 2. So it kind of gives you an idea of some things to look for. That was all on eBay, of course. But I'm going to end up running mock. And yeah, it's just a simple deal. I've got all the controllers, the controller set up, the steppers and everything. I've had it running. It's just a matter of marrying I've got a 2-to-1 ratio belt drive system coming up to run a machine to where a lot of guys will do a direct drive, which I'm thinking that would be kind of neat. But for what I'm trying to do, I'm thinking I'm going to eliminate this collar here, 100,000th revolution, and the pulley will be basically there, and then I'll have just basically material that comes out here, and then you bolt your stepper to, and I'll have a 2-to-1 pulley system, so the hand will still be on there, and that may change later if I find that, because I would like to later on update it to, like, say a ball screw setup, and then I can get rid of the power feed. If I get fluent enough to where, because I do carburetors, when I put them in there, I normally have the vise, and it's just real simple to go in there and mill the carburetor choke horn off, and then I'll go and hand radius it later on. But my goal is, whether it be in my router over there or right here, I want to be able to, I can see it in my head just as far as programming is concerned and CAD. I know it can be done. It's just a matter of trying to self-teach yourself to get it done. And I know I can do it. It's just, I got to get there. But I guess what I'm saying is the operations that I do on the carburetors, there's no reason that I should have to take it in the back room, so to speak, and finish it off by hand. I want to be able to pull it out of the mill and be able to get it ready for powder coat. I don't know. I think it should happen, but we'll see. Like I said, it's nothing new. I mean, it's just your normal touch screen with mock setup. Kind of hard to video it, but I mean, yeah, it's basic. I love this software. Whoever did this is just, to me, I'd love to shake their hand, because you've taken such a powerful system and basically put it into your home PC based and being able to create some really neat stuff. It's not rediscovering the wheel. This home CNC stuff with these steppers is freaking everywhere, but I just can't seem to get enough of it myself. So it's kind of a rundown on my mill project. It's got long ways to go. Oh, and another thing, the drawbar here that I was talking about with these tool setups, since that's a 3/4 of an inch, you have the one collet, which I had collets years ago, but I ended up selling them and going with this, which is nice. It has all your collets, and basically you have to hold the spindle and turn this collar off, and you can pop the collets out. But to me, I didn't want that. I wanted something a little better and a little more. So that being said, I just started looking around, and I can get these holders for, I think it was $6 a piece. So the collets and the amount of run out that they have, and the ease of being able to change them out is going to be like tenfold. So what the plan is here's your drawbar. Obviously that's R8, but the drawbar, basically, if you use these, it'll go into here, and then I'm going to have a bracket system coming up here, and then I'll have an air solenoid that, if you use these conical washers, they basically act like a spring if you stack the two, because they're domed. If you stack the two together, it would become a spring. So I'm going to stack some of them together, and then with the drawbar, then you'll tighten down the collet. And once it grabs, well, then once you're happy with how much preload you have on your collet, then that allows me to, for a tool change, I can have whatever, or have it over here or whatever, and I can push a button, and then it'll push that drawbar down, and I can basically pull the tool out, pull another one, put it up in, hit the drawbar, boom, pops it down in. So that's the goal. Pretty neat little setup, but just have to get there. Making all these brackets and getting the cylinder and everything, I mean, that's a lot of work in itself. But there again, it's not something that's been reinvented. I mean, it's all over the place. It's just me as a person has to get there in my shop. So hope you liked the little rundown there, and subscribe if you would. Thanks.